Saros is an excellent game and very likely my game of the year. We'll see how the rest of the year turns out, and while I am excited for the new control, this very well may be it for me. As I was approaching the end of Saros, I genuinely couldn't believe how good the game was. I liked the game immediately from the beginning, but as I approached the end, or basically the last half of the game, I couldn't put this game down. The plot gets crazy, everything goes off the rails, the weapons get insane, and the game just kept getting better and better. Alright, so why is this my game of the year so far? To start off, the gameplay mechanics were top notch. The controls were sharp as a knife. This game gives you all the tools you need to master it. At no point did I think, oh man, that was really unfair. Every time I died, it was because of a mistake I clearly made. I dashed when I should have used my shield. Maybe I was playing too aggressively, or just plain dumb. Learning from your mistakes in this game is essential, and I found this to be one of the more rewarding aspects of this game. The core mechanics of this game are essentially the same as HouseMarque's previous game, Returnal, and even very similar to the previous game, Resogun, which is an awesome shoot 'em up if you've never played it before. You shoot, you shield, you dash a lot, and most importantly, you try and stay alive. The bullet hell formula of this game and Returnal is very unique in my opinion, as it's something you usually don't see in a third-person shooter. While Returnal took a more Sekiro approach, aka get good, with a little bit of luck, this has more of a standard RPG approach, where you can level up and get stronger in between levels. I appreciate this as it prevented me from getting frustrated and potentially giving up on the game. This makes the loop more satisfying as it gives you the feeling that you're always making at least some progress. I found the difficulty of this game to be perfect. I know some people have complained about it that it's too easy, but Returnal was a really hard game, and this was somewhere in the sweet spot for me. I think it's easier largely due to the leveling system, but conquering a challenging level or a boss was still extremely satisfying. Speaking of the bosses, this game had a few 10 out of 10 bosses in my opinion that demonstrate a grand spectacle comparable to God of War. The graphics of this game are absolutely amazing. I can't think of a single game that matches this on my PS5 Pro and OLED TV. The lighting adds a lot to the atmosphere of the game, and it creates striking and memorable visuals. The level design is also superb. The game breaks up the action with some fun platforming that fits perfectly in place. I was constantly floored by the beauty of the atmosphere and set pieces, as they evoke such a strong emotional response of shock and awe. The closest thing to a downside of this game is that it's so fast-paced and frantic that it makes it hard to appreciate the beauty of this game. They did, however, just add a photo mode that I would have appreciated when I went through my first playthrough, but at least it's there now. The atmosphere sets such a unique tone, and it gave me a nostalgic feeling of playing Super Metroid and Metroid Prime as a kid. It's an oppressively bleak atmosphere that somehow invites you in like a warm blanket. The vibe and atmosphere alone are powerful enough to shape your gaming experience. This game sucks you into its atmosphere and isolates you, yet it gives you the feeling of power due to the razor-sharp controls and the ability to make progress. It gives you a wildly satisfying and rewarding power trip as you traverse these perfectly challenged levels leading up to excellent boss fights. The atmosphere also plays an integral role in the story, which starts off pretty tame but by the end is bonkers. I recommend paying attention to the characters' voice logs and text logs in the beginning of the game, as I kind of skimmed through them because they weren't very interesting. But as the story ramps up, it gets insane, and I wish I would have paid more attention in the beginning. This game carries you along by giving you new skills, abilities, and weapons to use, and new traversal skills to explore. Once you have these new traversal skills, you'll unlock areas that you could previously not reach. The weapons continue to get better as you progress. As you start off, you start with simple weapons, a pistol, a shotgun, a machine gun. But by the end, the weapons get pretty far out there, and the later weapons are the most fun in my opinion. There is a very cool feature in this game where every weapon has an alternate fire mode, where if you gently press down on L2, you'll get an alternate fire. This is a really cool way to shake up the gameplay and the gunplay, as every weapon feels like two different weapons. Speaking of gently pressing down L2, the haptics of this game are very impressive. By the end, it felt like I was reading Braille. The haptics would let me know a ton of things about what was happening in my environment. It felt like it was sending a signal straight to my brain, letting me know what was happening in the game. This was all very helpful as the game is so frantic and hectic, it's sometimes hard to know what's going on. But having the game haptics tell you what's going on was really helpful and unique. I think this game really lands its artistic vision. It does this by creating such a unique atmosphere based on the weird things this game has to offer. A bunch of wonky stuff happens with time. This game has a very alien feeling and has some cultish symbology, all while telling a unique story and weaving in Indian and Hindu mythology into its cosmic horror setting. This game's length is excellent in my opinion. It is very respectful of your time and how you want to play. Initially, I was playing a run or two and then calling it a day, and that's a perfectly fine way to play. However, eventually, maybe 5 hours or so into it, this game just clicked with me and I couldn't put it down. Alright, here's some tips and tricks I wish I would have known. Number 1. Pay attention to the Alt Fire skill on your weapon. This helps you make the right choice for what weapon you want to use. In the beginning, I repeatedly ended up in a boss battle where I was using a weapon I didn't want to use, but I picked it up just because it was a slightly higher level than the one I was using. Number 2. The yellow projectiles will cause you to get corrupted. When you're corrupted, it reduces your maximum health. Remember to get rid of this before you start to heal or when you find a health pack. To get rid of your corruption, you just use your power attack. In other words, your L2 and R2 attack. Your shield also uses the same resource as your power attacks. Pretty early on in the game, you'll unlock a skill where your shield will start to absorb blue projectiles. Once you absorb these blue projectiles, it actually charges your meter and it will allow you to use more power attacks. Number 3, you can't dash if you're already sprinting. This is pretty obvious, but I found myself dying to this a lot in the early game. Number 4, using your keys to unlock a locked door is almost always going to be the better option than to smash a yellow pillar with it. Number 5, be sure to kite enemies. Most of the arenas that you fight in have a lot of verticality and platforming that you can use for your advantage. Number 6, you'll unlock the smart rifle pretty early on in the game. Once you get this weapon, it's great for bosses. You don't really have to aim, so you can focus more on dodging and staying alive. If this game is simply too hard for you, once you beat the second boss, you'll unlock something called modifiers. Usually you're limited to how many you can have on, but if you mess around in the settings through the game start menu, you'll find there's actually an option for unlimited game modifiers, so you can make the game significantly easier if you are struggling. However, I would not recommend this. It kind of cheapens the playthrough and the game. I would only do this if you genuinely can't beat a boss and you've already attempted to grind and you're near max level. All in all, this game took me about 20 hours to beat. It then took an additional 7 hours to platinum. None of the trophies are missable. One of the few trophy tips I have, as soon as you unlock the modifiers, be sure that you keep at least some modifiers on. One of the more grindy trophies is you have to do multiple runs with your modifiers on, so you might as well get a head start while you're playing through the campaign. Also pay attention to which nightmare strands you beat. You have to beat one in every area, and it's easy to forget which one you've done. Surprisingly, there are no collectible trophies in this game. I definitely thought you would have to find every audio and text log. You don't. You should still look for them because they add to the plot, but you don't need them for a trophy. All in all, this was an excellent game. The gameplay was amazing. The graphics, atmosphere, story, and overall vibe were just immaculate. HouseMarque knocked it out of the park with this one. They managed to make a unique game with a unique story, and I think it landed perfectly. All in all, I would give this game a 9.3 out of 10. I highly recommend this game. I have a feeling it's going to be one of those games that people find out later and find this as a hidden gem, but there's no reason to wait for that. Check out this game. It's awesome.
There's Joe. Oh, that's stupid.